right, well, welcome back again in the studio. As always, we'll be putting a man down today, but fortunately we do have someone else to pick up the pace. As always, it's Christopher Muir, Brennan, and Gray Hyatt, and today's guest is Wake Forest head coach and four-time ACC Coach of the Year, Bobby Muuss. Bobby, you recently found out that you'll be playing Maryland, the defending national champions, on Sunday here at Spry. You guys obviously have sort of an advantage in that you have a longer break, or do you see that more as a disadvantage?
The longer break, well, first off, thanks for having me. Longer break is what you make of it, right? It's you'd like to, especially after a tough loss to UVA, you'd like to get back at it and see where you're at. But I do think this was a good opportunity for us to regroup, and our ultimate goal is getting to the selection show without adding any injuries and trying to get healthy, but really try to push the group a little bit and have some really good high-intense trainings. And then we were off yesterday when Maryland was playing. My staff and I went to the game just so we could see it live and get a little bit of an idea of what we're up against. And then really just trying to find a good rhythm here the next 2 days to prepare for them. So I could tell you at 7 o'clock on Sunday if it was if it was good to have that time off. But we've been fortunate. We've been in this situation before, having this gap. At least a week, but this was 10 days, and we had the same last year, and we came out, had good performances in the second round, so hopefully we're going to do the same on Sunday.
So you mentioned that you went to the Maryland game last night.
Mm-hmm.
So what are things that you look for during that game? Are you always trying to look for what parts of the team that you can expose, or what did you notice from that game that you're maybe going to turn into this game on Sunday?
A little bit of both. It's always to see what they're doing. A little bit going in because there's so much video, and we have access to all their games the same way they have access to all ours. But just seeing it live and seeing the big picture. A lot of the video we use is the TV coverage, so you're not getting to see the big scope of everything. But yeah, just really seeing their tendencies, things maybe that we can implement in the brief time that we have to counteract maybe some of their things, or at least just prepare, maybe not even counteract, and then looking for areas that maybe we're able to exploit them and try to implement our game a little bit more against them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, coming into that selection show, were you at all surprised, or did you expect to be one of the top 4 seeds nationally?
I thought there was a chance. I think our RPI was 6 going into the show. And RPI does, there's a reason they have it, right? There's a mathematical formula for it. But I thought our schedule, in that 6, there was only one other team with higher strength of schedule, and opponent strength of schedule. And the teams that we lost to, we lost to the number 1 team to get knocked out. We beat, at the time, the 3 RPI in Clemson, and we beat the 4 RPI in UCF, or the 5 RPI in UCF, so I thought maybe that definitely helped us in that. But I think the committee really sat down and said we want to reward the best soccer conference and, the teams from the best soccer conference in the country in the ACC, and they did that. I wasn't shocked, but, I wouldn't have been shocked if we were 5 or 6 either,
Yeah, because this is the 5th season in a row that Wake has been ranked in the top 4 seeds. So is that something that you try and tell your players to give them confidence, or is it something that you choose not to mention or focus on as a
little bit of both? I think we start every season, and we joke about it sometimes with little things, but no, we start every season wanting to try to create new history with every team that we have, which is hard if there's a lot of history, right? Mm-hmm. So if it's a shutout streak, it's hard. If there's a win streak, it's extremely hard. So we try to find different ways of creating new history. And we also know that our ultimate goal is to win a national championship. Very, very difficult to do. The draw is very important. The weather, I know that sounds minute, but it's very, this time of year, if we get sent to Syracuse for a 3rd-round game, it's different, right?
Yeah.
Or Akron they're not in them this year, but it's just more of there's a lot of luck that goes into that. But we say if we want to be at home at Spry in front of our crowd, we need a top 4 seed.
Yeah.
Well, at least we control our own destiny instead of someone else losing and we getting a home seed. So that's been a goal. But I told the team we were off Monday, coming off the game Sunday, off Monday, and we basically we talked about creating new history, and this is something that no one will ever be able to take away from me. The first team, and since they've been doing seeding, to do it, and when you think about it, that's not easy to do, And I think we need to be humbled A lot. If you look at the NCAA draw and you look at Carolina or Duke in our conferences not making the NCAA tournament, to 2 Final Four teams last year in Michigan State and Akron not making the NCAA tournament. I mean, to get the top 5 seed, top 4 seed, I guess, the last 5 years is a testament to their work, their mentality, their focus, because it's not easy. You know, sustainability is hard.
Yeah.
You know, getting there, that's pretty cool. To stay there, it's hard. And these guys are under an extreme amount of pressure. We get everybody's very, very best each and every game. So that I was extremely proud of. So we're using it as more of a motivation, and knowing that now when you get the 4 seed, I don't think anyone looks at it and says, oh, you'll be rewarded with the defending national champion in the second round. But, you know, to win the tournament, to advance in the tournament, you got to beat good teams. And everybody's difficult in different ways. 2 years ago, we played Columbia, you know, the best defensive team in the country, and you're like, oh, we get Columbia. It's not Louisville or Maryland, but it's still very, very difficult.
Right.
So there's a reason they're in the tournament. Every team, no matter who it may be, and we look at the draw. We're excited about the draw, and I mean it should be exciting for fans as well.
Yeah, you are excited.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned Akron, who last year you played them in the tournament, and then you lost them at home.
Thank you. I got a good memory. I'm not that old. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I
You want to talk about any other losses? Go ahead.
What I remember from that one was obviously in that last minute, you know, that the goal that was called off because of offsides. Now, what I'm curious about that is, was he offside?
No.
Really? Okay, so like.
No, he wasn't. And you know, I shouldn't have, but I did. I walked onto the field so I can see the video board because they showed it real quick.
Yeah.
And that hit a fuse, you know, because you're like, it's being stolen. In some ways, and obviously referees are human, they're going to make errors, and I understand that. We don't have review for that, so it's not something we can look at, but it's so unique that one of our alumni was basically at the fence, you know, right there on that line, and videoed it. And if we did have VAR, you know, we play in overtime in that game, and I think ourselves, and I know it's like sour grapes, but if we play, I mean, we may have been able to score again with a minute left the way we were playing at that point. We just needed that.
Right.
But the thing for me is if that's called a goal, no one loses the game.
Right.
By it not being called a goal, it is. And if you look at the soccer that was played, is Machop could have finished, and he played it. And the reason he looks so offsides is because the effort that Aristotle put in to get on the end of that service, he's like, I'm not missing this, you know, and no one's going to get to it first. And the energy, and we talk about that, upgrading our shots, you know, we'd call them tap-ins or Wake Forest goals. So, like, as a coach, you're like, this is everything we ask of them. Right. And then it was taken away. Yeah. So, long-winded answer to that, but as we look at that video and picture, I mean, he is on. It is close, but he's on. Yeah. And for me, if I'm an official in that situation, if no one's going to lose because of it, if it's close, you know what I mean? It should be on, right? And let the boys battle in overtime. And I think that's where we just felt, you know, that's why so much emotion came into it.
I mean, and officials are supposed to favor the attacker if it's close too, which is.
The thing for me is this: is I could see if he was playing a guy in a super advantage, he was in an unbelievable spot too, which is like unselfish football. And you know what I mean? And that's what we pride ourselves on. I think that's. You know, I told Machop now, learning that you have to finish that yourself, right? But hindsight, we can laugh about it, but it wasn't. You know, I was proud of him with the ball that he made, and you know, proud of the finish to get on the end of it, and just gutted that it was taken away.
Yeah. Would you be a proponent of VAR being introduced in the future?
I would, and obviously college soccer has a source of it, but it's not useful. Yeah. You know, we don't do it during the regular season at Wake right now. I do think if it's used for violent conduct or, you know, cardable issues, it stops the flow of the game. Goal line, if the ball goes over the line, but we don't have a goal line camera, so you're looking at a TV angle where you may not know if it goes over the line anyway, so we're just slowing the game down, and we're a high-tempo team. But I will tell you this, if you look at it now, and I can go back and I can watch the Syracuse-North Carolina game, North Carolina score a goal that's called back, right, that he is on. North Carolina is the 11th team in the NCAA tournament. You know, and I think that is, so these things, and for me, we're advancing, and guys' careers aren't over here at Wake Forest, and we have another opportunity to take a step forward. So if we had the technology to do VAR, You know what I mean? And you got to realize the cameras that they use for this is unbelievable. But I'm just talking about sideline cameras, for and offsides, or a handball in the box. I'm all for it, but it can't get out of control where we just lose the rhythm of the game.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things I like the most about the introduction of the goal line technology is that it is very quick. The referee just gets the little buzzer on his watch.
That's the professional one we have right now. Well, and there's 4 teams in the ACC right now that have cameras in the goal posts. I think Notre Dame's one of them. Florida State's one of them. I can't tell you the other ones. Louisville may be the other one. And literally is they just turn it on and you can see exactly where the ball landed. If we had that, I'd be more for it. Instead of this did you, did you not, type thing.
If you have that overhead angle at the side, it's impossible to tell anyway.
And that's the same thing with offsides. If you want to use them, because it's on an angle, we can sit here in post game and say this guy's on, this guy's off. If we went back to that play against Akron, if you looked from camera view and TV view or whatever it is, you can't make it out. Right. But this view that we've gotten is unbelievable. And literally you have to go still and slow and the same way they do in the booth. But he would have been on, but that's the past.
Now you also have obviously a list of illustrious players that you've worked with in the past at Wake Forest, and you continue to do so. What do you do to sort of have them buy into the program and sort of commit to, let's win the college cup, let's win the national championship? Because a lot of them do have, a great future ahead of them. You've had O'Meara last season, now with the Red Bulls.
Yeah, and I was just in the parking lot. Brandon Cervanier's back right now with Amir, and Mark McKenzie's on his way back in, and he just got back from the U23s. I think is the buy-in part we try to do on the front end. We've been fortunate too. It's we've looked a little bit better at what we do than maybe what we are in terms of a staff. I think we do a good job identifying talent. We try to look and identify good college soccer players. And I use Mark and Brandon, for instance. I mean, they were extremely good youth players that we say, these guys could be 4-year college guys, right? We can build a team around these guys. And then they left after the first year. But they're where we saw them and when we got them early, and they really ran with the opportunity they got with their club teams when they went with youth national teams, and obviously the rest is history. I think I would say everybody in our club when they first come have ambitions about being professional soccer players. I mean, that's what their youth clubs are selling to them, and it's growing so much more now. But we try to say, we want to win a national championship. We want you to get one of the best degrees in the country. We want to compete at the highest level, and ultimately we want to win a national championship. For me, I don't care if guys become professionals. I said I want to make sure that they're ready for whatever life throws at them. If it's being a professional soccer player, where hopefully we have a hand in trying, if it's the speed of play, their mentality, their consistency, mastering their craft and their position, to be ready for that. But, to be a better husband, to be a better father, be a better person of the community. That's ultimately the goal, and if you have the opportunity to play soccer for 1 year, 6 months, or 16 years, I want you to be the best and be ready for it. So, but we still, the ultimate goal is to win. And I think that's the hardest part, right? Because we lose on Sunday, people will say it's a disappointing year, right? 13-5, that would be our record. It's not a disappointing year in college soccer. It's just these expectations that we have. But that's the way you bring them back in, right? Because let's be fair. We felt it a little bit. We had 5 All-ACC guys this year, 1 on the first team, 4 on the third team, right? What a difference a point makes. Because if we tie 1 game, we win the ACC, and we probably have 4 on the first team and 1 on the third team, right? It's so winning, right, gives these guys this opportunity. We have guys that have been drafted into the MLS or playing the USL that maybe weren't on any major club radars, and then they come and they watch, if you want to use names, Amir, and then someone gets an opportunity because we're winning. And if you're going to take a chance on someone, you might as well take a chance on a guy that knows how to win, comes from a culture of winning. And I think that's what we can use in the recruiting process, but ultimately is the education, the preparation, for being a pro or for being in the business world, whatever they choose to be. We don't have that hard of a problem doing it. I do think the most difficult part is when guys start really doing well, and they're getting all the praise from the external factors, and if it's social media saying, well, this is the first round, and then it's hard. You know, like I was 18 once. All I wanted to be is wanted, right? or told how great I was. No one, my parents did. My grandma did that, and my mom do, and I make fun of it all the time. It's like, and then I got in college. I'm like, wow, I'm not that good. You know, and I was set up for failure. But no, I think that's hard to reel them back in. But hopefully, the culture of the group on a yearly basis does that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it can definitely be especially hard with social media these days, I imagine. Not really a problem you had back in, like, the 80s as much as, like, if you had
I wasn't coaching in the 80s.
No. Easy. As a player.
I fool around with the guys every once in a while. I'm like, last night, you know, UVA won 7-0 over, you know, Virginia Tech, and they're like, it's like, Coach, we get the scores. But this is the stuff that my coach did in college where we didn't have a way of finding out, right? Like, we could be on the field, I'm like, yo, you lost 7-0. It's like, no, we won 4-0. Like, oh, man, he won 4-0. Right? Like, so it's one of those, like, these guys know everything. So
yeah, I mean, I think with modern players especially, it can be very tough to, like, almost, I mean, not really keep your own ego in check, but, like, keep it from running away, I guess. So if you look at social media too much, it can really just be inflated.
It's two ways, though. Yeah, I was going to say it's two ways. Someone said to me, is like, today's youth athletes, for instance, have it harder than we did growing up. And I'm like, come on, I have this. If it's the way their body's treated, we have science. I mean, they're babied in a lot of ways, in a good way, to try to protect them and to make sure they're progressing physically. But mistakes. You know, you miss a penalty, you know what I mean? It's everybody's retweeting and watching it. Yeah. You do something silly. If it's a foul, it's broken down more. Yeah. More games are on TV, so now the color people have to talk about something. You know, and I look at, you know, my captain and Bruno Lappa is like the first 7 games of the year. They're talking about how he's not producing and and you could say, well, if I watch back the game, I don't listen to it, but we do, you know, and that's not fair to a young man that's doing the little things to try to help us win games, but because he's not scoring goals, you know, some guy that, you know what I mean, is watching our team play once every month, you know, on national television is, you know, trying to give his 2 cents. So that's difficult, you know, and you don't realize it as much, and then when you take a step back, you're like, I don't know if I'd be able to handle being you guys right now, right? So we try to stay away from all that. We don't really talk about the accolades as much, and we just try to talk about what we need to do moving forward to win games.
Because you mentioned a couple alumni are back now, like Omir, and they're probably going to come to the game on Sunday, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I hope so, yeah.
And then, like, Marcus Tracy and Michael Parkhurst were just inducted into the Wake Forest Sports Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. And so you have all these alumni who are super successful in their soccer careers. Yep. And I was wondering what influence they have on you and the players now. Like, is there to try and facilitate a relationship between the current team and former players to, like, get advice? Or, like, what is their impact on the current team, I guess?
That's a loaded one. We talk about our Wake Forest soccer family, and I know a lot of teams talk about family, and professional clubs talk about family. This is a unique one. Yeah. You know, when you think about this, even when you think about if it's Brennan, if it's Mark, if it's Amir, Louis Agudo comes back, Kevin Politz was back a couple of weeks ago, John Picaro always comes back. Like, it's Jared Odenbeck was back. It is one of those, Steven Echeverria. I mean, like, when they have off or their seasons are over, that these guys come at their first opportunity, it's pretty unique, right? That doesn't happen a lot of places. Like, I left there, I don't want to go back. Yeah. So as a coach, you know, as someone that at least oversees the program, you got to be proud of the culture that the players and you have there for them, that they feel comfortable and they want to be a part of it. I say the older alumni, like a Marcus and a Michael, our guys are worried about the guys they see on TV now, but we do try to talk about the legacy that these older guys have left and what they did for the program. I mean, Michael Parkhurst and that group there were, you know, they didn't single-handedly change the program because so many people before them did such an unbelievable job, but to put us in a national spotlight and to win a couple of regular season ACC championships, and now we've won a tournament championship and flirted and been in the NCAA tournament. But you talk about a group of young men, Marcus Tracy and that group, is they came to Wake Forest not to be pros. They came to Wake Forest to get one of the best degrees in the country and to be the first to win a national championship. And it's unique, you know, that they were able to do that. Back in the day, you were allowed to personalize your recruiting type stuff, and Coach Vidovich thought I was a little bit crazy, but I went out and I saw Marcus Tracy play. Marcus Tracy was playing against one of our former players, Jamie Franks, which was my assistant at Denver, and now is the head coach at Denver. And Jamie was a great player here, and I was, Jamie may have been committed at the time, but I was up and I was watching him play, and I said, Jay, I got this guy. This kid's unbelievable, right? So, and this was in June, and then we went and visited Marcus Tracy on July 1st, which was the first day you're allowed to go into a house. And I had a replica Herman trophy made, right, with his name on it, and we brought this into Marcus's house. And then 4 years later, he won the Herman. Now, I don't that's the last time a crystal ball actually worked for me, because I tell guys my crystal ball broke a long time ago. But this was the cultural change, and we're going to win. And I think it's obviously that group. Michael was before Marcus, but now you're starting to see all that hard work from all the players and all the coaches in the past pay off, where these guys are starting to get inducted to the Hall of Fame, and it's a special. That was a special announcement for us, because there's been a lot of alumni. When is it going to come? When is it going to come?
Yeah.
And now you're starting to see that recognition. But the alumni base that we have is very, very unique. We have guys come back from all different eras. I mean, we had about 50 alumni back for our alumni week,
cool.
which is incredible, and they're all out there playing and having fun and cheering and acting like they're still in school.
Yeah.
But it's a very, very unique culture. And I'll tell you what, for our student athletes, in pregame, if all those alumni are back from all different generations and they're in the locker room pre and post, it's something that these guys never forget. At their first year doing that, they're like, wow, this is why I came to Wake Forest.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
So when you are out there playing during alumni weekend, how you break up scrimmage teams for that?
I stay out of it. Hey, I can't please alumni, from my office, and in even winning or losing, they can do their own teams. I'm not getting involved in that. No chance.
Yeah, so you sort of mentioned a little bit about the recruiting process and how you got some of these guys, and one that I'm sure we're all curious about, a little bit more high profile, at least recently, Jack Harrison.
Mm-hmm.
When you brought him here, obviously he has the record, coming from England and played in high school here.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like? How did you sell him on?
Yeah, that's not. I'm out of that one in some ways, because that was during the transitional period, right? So Coach Vidovich and his staff recruited Jack, and I would say probably Jack committed a couple of months, maybe less than that, before I got the job. So Dane Brenner was on that staff, and then he's still on my staff, and I've known Dane since he was a possible recruit for us way back in the day. He's from High Point, and so good relationship with Dane. And Dane's like, we got to re-recruit Jack Harrison, and I'm like, well, you hope that these kids come, and we had to. I mean, there was phone calls with every kid that was committed, but I took a trip up to Connecticut just so we talked a couple of times. Obviously his mom's not there, but built a relationship with his high school coach, with Jack, because he needed to get to know who I was. But the biggest thing is, Jack, yes, Jay is an icon, right? Yeah. And you're going to come, and obviously, he's a great coach, but hopefully in this whole process you were coming for Wake Forest, mm-hmm. And I'm going to do things different than Coach Jay, but I was with him before. It's not like someone from the outside was coming in and wants to just do things completely different. I mean, we want to play a certain way. We value you as a player. This is where we see you fitting in. And, he basically, in some ways, I wouldn't say recommitted, because he never decommitted. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But he was in, and the rest is history, and we're very fortunate to have him.
Yeah, so about recruiting for players from foreign nations, it's a completely different system over there with how they don't do soccer in school or in college over mm-hmm. there. It's all through academy system. So, what makes it a convincing argument for a player to leave an academy and come to play college soccer in the United States?
There's not a lot of differences now with the way our academy system is, right? And so when you're done at 19, what are you going to do? Mm-hmm. If they don't sign you, what are you going to do? And that's what happens. Kids commit, and then they find out if they're getting signed or not, and then you find out that you just lost a couple of your top guys to the pros. And we've dealt with that. We've had one. It will be multiple moving forward. In terms of players that you thought were coming, and then they sign, and then you have to re-recruit some people. But it's the same thing in Europe. Wherever it is, Scandinavia, wherever you want to be, is these kids. They all want contracts. Not one of them saying, that because they don't really know as much, and it's after the fact when they realize they're not going to get a first team contract, or they're going to have to continue to chase it and really not make a great living playing. this academic thing could be an option. Well, in the U.S. they do this. Those players you actually know that are coming. And I think if you look at college soccer as a whole right now, and even in the ACCs, a ton of international players playing because of that reason.
Yeah.
They're not worried about, in December, Red Bull calling Amir and saying, hey, we want you we want you to sign 6 months before you're supposed to be here. So the difference is, though, like with a young kid here in America, we see play several times. You're building this really strong relationship with them where you understand, and hopefully you have this openness of what happens in Europe. Maybe you go over for 4 or 5 days, depending, and you can talk and you can do that, but you're not really, you don't really have that. And some of our guys that have come that have been international kids for us, it is a little bit of a roll of the dice, right? I mean, you build these relationships, but it's hard sometimes. It's hard sometimes. But we've been fortunate with some of the ones that we have. A lot of our called international kids are actually based in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
If it's Jack or Ema, they were in the public schools. You watch them play for 2 or 3 years. You build these relationships with them. Like Takuma Suzuki that we have Peachtree, but he's Japanese, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's here on an international visa, but he played in Georgia. Machop Cholk, and we could say from that's a refugee from 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Justin McMaster's Jamaican, but he came through the Philadelphia Union system. Bruno Lapa, right, Brazilian, but he was at Montverde High School. So there's at least those you can continue to see players and you get to know them a little bit better. The risk is lower.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned the growing number of international players at Wake Forest, but just generally in college soccer over the last maybe 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So how have you seen the game change, or what influences does having more of an international presence on college soccer have on?
I think it is
played?
exactly what we just said.
Yeah.
I think there's plenty of good players in the U.S., 100%. But if you look at the top 100 recruits in the country, and if you're losing 1 through 25 to pro clubs as homegrowns or youth contracts, 50-100 is broken up over to maybe the top 20 programs, and then 100 to but we wouldn't recruit 100 to 150. If we want to win in the ACC and we want to compete for a national championship. So now the world becomes available, right? So if we have, say, if you use the U.S. numbers, for instance, very, very vague. If we say 1 through 25 signs, right, and then 50 to 100 go, well, then you have the 50 to 100 in Germany, the 50 to 100 in England, the 50 to 100 in Italy. You know what I mean? And then they don't have that system. Right? Well, let's go get number 26. It is. There's vast companies that help and try to help facilitate relationships with student athletes in schools, to different events that you can go to where they have basically almost like ID camps, but for certain companies. So it's you're looking everywhere. We definitely, you go on a scamper. Transfer. With the new transfer portal, transfers are everywhere as well. It's crazy, but that happens, right? So there's a young kid that didn't know about college, and school X, small mid-major is looking for a player, and they give him a boatload of money. The kid has no idea what he's getting into, right? No, and he goes and he's in this middle of nowhere playing and then he realizes, holy cow, I'm traveling to Louisville or Wake Forest, and you're seeing oh my goodness, look what else is out there, and he's killing it, and all of a sudden he's that's what I want, or typical, we have an American kid that was all world and and not playing, and now he's not all world anymore and he's not happy, he wants to go somewhere else. But the transfer portal has really changed college athletics, never mind just soccer as a whole. Kids get added to that on a daily basis for all sports.
Right.
Yeah.
No, do you think the sort of emphasis on college soccer as opposed to academies where you would see in Europe and other places, is that in some ways holding back U.S. soccer, or do you see kind of a way they can work in tandem? I
don't think that is holding back U.S. soccer, soccer in America.
Right.
Because we are just a small piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
I still think there's always a place. First off, we live in the U.S. A college degree, you guys are sitting here for why? You're not on the soccer team. You know what I mean? But it's here to get an education. It's not to get a degree. Right. It's to get an education, and an education is totally different than a degree.
Yeah.
Right? We can sit in front of a computer and get a degree. What you guys are doing, extracurricular stuff by even sitting here and doing this, and you're broadening, and you're giving yourself an opportunity to be in front of someone else. But the way you communicate, the way you interact with other students of all different, backgrounds, The challenges, you guys are challenged at a very high level academically. I don't care, be the brightest person in America. We don't have a lot of not bright people here, right?
Yeah.
So you're sitting next to people where you used to think you were the smartest,
Yeah.
and now you're like, oh my gosh, that guy. But that's the same thing we do in our game. Right, that's what you used to think you were awesome, and now you're like, that guy's pretty good too, right? So you're
He still
humbled.
thinks he's pretty awesome.
So do I, right? We all do,
Classic
right?
at age 8,
But when you think about this, I still think there's always going to be a place for college soccer. Now, where does that formula fit in? I think we're going through a transition in professional soccer where we need to get more and more young kids, and it's a numbers game. So let's sign the 4 of us, hope enough that one of us work to play for the first team, one of us work where we play for the first team, where we can sell them, so then we can get the next 5, 6, 7, 12 guys.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see an influx of signings, right? And then we're going to see what happens, right? And we're still going to sell the positive ones, the ones that happen, and do well. But as we sit in here and even talking about Wake Forest, we talk about Jack Harrison. Right, Jack Harrison was here for a year. Jack Harrison probably will not have to get a job when he's done because of where Jack Harrison is.
Yeah.
But if you think about all the players now that have signed out of Wake Forest over the last 20 years, Jack is the one that's not going to have to work.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm not saying coaching club soccer or being an assistant here, and that's not great if that's what you want to do. But I also would like to think that with this, education, you can do more.
Right.
After you're done. So there's a place for it. We're not fighting it. We want to alter. Obviously, we're under rules. We'd love the 21st century model to go through where it would be a 10-month season. Then we're on the same development plan as all the other clubs, all the other systems in the world. We're the one that only does this abbreviated season. As a coach, I have a new team every 6 months. Right, so my team at the end of this season will be different in the spring. My spring team, because of freshmen coming in, will be different in the fall, and this continues. So the development, I still think we do a very good job of developing kids. Every kid in my lineup right now that's not a freshman, right, did not start as a freshman. Right. So that means we're doing something, right? Now we want them all to be a little bit better, so we can always do a little bit better as a coaching staff, but there's a process of development in a lot of college systems, but the pros don't see it that way because we play all these games. What are you doing in the off season? How are you developing? So we just got to work together. I don't think we're hurting U.S. soccer. If you look at some of the guys on our national team that are actually affiliated, who's the best player right now on the national team? There's 2 of them that tore it up in the last camp, right? Zardes and Morris. They're both college guys, right? They're both college guys that played a lot of games in college soccer. Right, they weren't signed at 15 with the hope that they're good, right? So they're able to maybe deal with more adversity than some of these young kids that, think a tough day is, you go to practice, you come home, and you stunk at Fortnite. There's other adversity that you guys are seeing on a daily basis as students.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Getting an education, and I value that.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that the European academy system can kind of be bloated to be something that it's not, just because Pulisic was such a success going through that system? We're
talking about a very low percentage.
Yeah.
But let's be fair. If you go to Europe, they're spending more time worried about education because they realize more and more of their young kids, when they sign them, I've been fortunate. We've gone over to Liverpool the last few years and with the youth system. And if, there's kids that play for Liverpool under academy contracts, right? The same way our guys play for them. And then maybe they sign to a pro contract at a very low level, maybe a USL contract, but then these players are sent on loan. They end up quitting the game because they fall out in love with it because the level is so different than where they came from.
Yeah.
And I do think here, we're spoiled with facilities and what we're able to give and the resources that we have for student athletes. We have guys that will sign contracts, that go into a less fortunate environment in terms of resources, than what they have right now. And I think is in Europe, they're shocked with what we have at the university level. And I think if they had the system, there would be more players playing in college instead of making silly decisions or continue trying to chase a dream.
Yeah, I think the aspect of actually acquiring the education is definitely a very attractive part of the U.S. soccer system.
100%.
Yeah.
But again, we do have to fall in line and do a better way of falling in line with professional soccer. It's ironic, right? Because I can go to a youth academy event and there's no re-entry.
Yeah.
Okay? and then I go to a non-academy event, and the reentry drives me crazy. But here I am, I sub like an animal. You know what I mean? So it's like I am a hypocrite, but it is the game. There's less breakup. There's more flow to it. You can see who can handle it and who can make decisions over long periods of time. So we need to try to get on a common model with professional soccer to continue to have some type of relevance.
Just sort of maybe changing the topic a little bit, but the game against Virginia Tech, I was curious because for the penalty shootout, you went and you changed goalies, went from Andrew to Dominic. Is there some sort of system where you've practiced with one keeper for penalties? Because it seemed kind of, well, at least from like a viewer's perspective, sort of out of nowhere, but
did it work?
Paid out.
Yeah. So I look smart.
Yeah.
No, we have this like really, really high tech. It's muscle fibers, twitches. On that day, who's going to save more penalties? Like before the game, we hook them up on this machine, right? And basically, if we went to penalties, who has the best chance of saving a penalty? And I pressed the button, and it went, and it said Dom Peters, right? That's what it does. So we said, if we go to penalties, Dom's going to be the guy. That's not at all what we have. But it really, Andrew picked up a knock the week before Louisville, going into the last game of the year. And Dom played, and Dom did very well. And that result, Dom's confidence was growing and growing. And Dom trained very, very well all week. And he made my life difficult. And that's what I asked my guys. Make my life difficult with decisions. But we know Andrew's at that time I didn't know he was an all-conference goalkeeper, but we felt he was an all-conference goalkeeper. He stepped up and filled Andreu's shoes. Never say flawlessly because they're very different goalkeepers, but we've moved forward and put ourselves in an opportunity to win a championship with Andrew, and he deserved it. So we went into that game, Dom's energy and the way he was and the confidence that he had, not saying Andrew doesn't have that, but if there was going to be something where you want to switch it up and bring that, that charisma and that was the situation. If it happened again, would I do the same exact thing? Depends on the week, depends on the game. And it didn't look like it was working, did it? A lot of people. It's like one of those as a coach. It's like you only get credit if it works. You don't get credit for the thought of what it could have done. I don't think one of our players, even Andrew, maybe would question it even if we didn't win. Just because of the way the training went. And there's things that we see on a daily basis that spectators don't. But it paid off. I was happy for Dom. What it did for his confidence for training, and the buy-in that he has been great for the team collectively.
So as I understand it, you were also a goalkeeper yourself at Southern Connecticut State. So what advice do you give your players with your experience, or do you try and coach them based on experiences that you've had as a goalkeeper?
Not as much. I do a lot of making fun of the goalkeepers, like, we don't need them, because that's what people didn't need me. But no, I try to stay away from that. Coach Brenner works with the goalkeepers. I'll definitely, chirp in a couple of times here and there, and obviously through Dane sometimes, but directly to them. The one thing that in terms of that position, I'm very, very empathetic to that position, knowing that only one plays, and we have 4 guys that go to work every day and work extremely, extremely hard. And I say this to anyone that listens, is that position here at Wake Forest, from even when I was an assistant here, has been a very competitive position, but probably the closest knit group of guys that I've seen. They hang out together, they train together, they pull for each other. The way they act when someone makes a big-time save, the 3 of them are up, and the field player's like, come on. You know what I mean? But it's very, very unique, that relationship, and we encourage it. We encourage it. I've been in situations, where maybe you're rooting for someone maybe not to do that well in your position just so you can play. Not here, and that position's unique. But my playing experiences, man, the only thing that I do, because I wasn't a great player, I tell them that, I try to coach off of things that I've learned or wish I would have done differently, and that's both academically, athletic, socially. But I told them this the other day, and it wasn't a story to try to get more buy-in and more spirit to training. I was very fortunate. I wasn't a great student. I wasn't a great player my first year. I was very humbled. And in '94, I probably went to college thinking I was going to be the man. I was far from it, didn't travel, wasn't very good. The next year, I made a commitment to the team and myself to do everything I can to get better and to help the team win. And I said when we won a national championship in '95 at Southern, I celebrated, and I felt as if I played the 90 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
And I said, if there's one thing that I can tell you, that if you give the team training each and every day everything you have, right, in the end you will have zero regrets and you'll enjoy every bit of it. When you're, my first year, if that was the end, I would have had every regret. I would have blamed everybody but me. And if we won, I wouldn't have been happy, and that's something that I really, anyone that really likes to listen to that story, and I probably tell it a couple of times a year, but it's just as rewarding if you're on the field and if you're not. I think some parents need to understand that as well. But I try to tell people, this was back at Denver when I was there, I'd say something, I wish you would have played more. I'm like, you have no idea the influence that your son had on this program, was the way, he held, the way he was as a man, the way he was as a competitor, the way he made it difficult on the field. You know what I mean? Like, he had a big hand in our success, although maybe you didn't see him on the weekends.
Yeah.
I don't think we have a player that doesn't bring something, to our team, and I think that's what I'm most proud of.
Yeah, so on Sunday, obviously, everybody will be up and ready for that one, especially the fans. Now, your time here at Wake, it seems as though, at least from, I've been to several other college games, I've seen other ones, and the environment just seems different, seems off if you're not at Sprite Stadium. What have you experienced that just makes Sprite different?
I don't know. I mean, we are. I think every head coach here at Wake would probably still want more students. You know what I mean? You guys we're playing Sunday. I got to study. I got something on Monday, right? I respect that, but 2 hours? Come on. If you don't procrastinate all weekend, you would have that 2 hours to support. But no, with that being said, we have a good student body, but we also have an incredible Winston-Salem soccer community that for years they're excited about this, and young kids get excited about it. I think that's what makes it special. After the game, I think our players are very accessible. They're human beings, you know what I mean? And I always want to be more humble and all that, but when you see them after a loss, after a win, the way they'll interact, if it's with you as the student body or if it's with the community, I think is extremely unique. So I think there's buy-in from both sides, and respect from both sides. But it's interesting because as great as Spry is, the soccer fan and the community actually know if we're playing well or not. Yeah. And if we're playing well, there's really good energy. And if we're not, you're like, oh my gosh, we need your energy. And that's good. I mean, if you go to, this is no disrespect to either of these clubs, Barcelona know the game, they're fans. Very, very educated. If they're not playing well, it's boring, right? If they're playing well, that place is rocking. Real Madrid is like the same. It's more like they're like commuter fans. You know what I mean? It's like I'm going to Madrid. I'm going to a Madrid game. It's like they sit there and it's the same if they're winning or losing. That's the uniqueness, I think, and it's actually credit to the fans. They expect a certain brand, they expect a certain excitement, they expect a certain energy. But it is electric when it's rocking and rolling on a weekend. But I think our energy stems from you. I think your energy stems from us. This weekend, obviously, I think we need a little bit of both.
So you mentioned that you're a Liverpool fan, and just in general, like as a coach, where have you gotten influence from any of your past coaches or just teams that you've watched growing up? What influences do those teams have or those managers have on your style?
Well, I will tell you this it was very difficult to emulate your coaching philosophy or even as a player on teams. You guys are spoiled, right? You watch their soccer on all the time, right? We got the EPL review show on Monday nights or Sunday nights where we get tidbits of highlights and be like, that was awesome. You know what I mean? And that's what I want to do. So it's a total different time now. But no, I was very, very fortunate to play in college and work with Ray Reid. He's at the University of Connecticut, but he was at Southern Connecticut with me. We were a very, very diverse group. I was on the field with a general in the Israeli militia. I was on the field with my high school club buddy to everywhere across the world, right? And then so then I went to Connecticut and finished my degree there and worked under Coach Reid. So that influence and his work rate, his attention to detail, the business side of football in a lot of ways is very important in what we do. And then I came here as an assistant to Jay, where it is there's a brand, there's a certain identity. I tell people all the time, I was here for 6 years. I probably learned for 3. And that's what I kick myself most for. My first 3 years, I was just running and working. You know what I mean? And the soccer was secondary because I was running and working, and we were trying to get players to play in the system that Jay wanted.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit more of the grunter. And but then in those last few years, I was like, wow, you know what I mean? I gotta absorb this, because I wasn't looking to be a head coach at the time either. So it just came, good opportunity. Jay and I met, like, well, these don't come around that often. Maybe I wasn't ready, and I learned on the fly a little bit. But those two have been, obviously my mentors in terms of the college coaching scenes, and very different personalities, very different way of looking at things. And I tried to put them all in and then try to make them mine, and I struggled doing that for a while. I was trying to be Ray for 1 week and trying to be Jay for another week, and then really, you just got to be yourself. I'm a Brennan Rodgers fan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And obviously not because he's doing great now, but just when he was at Liverpool, I think his, maybe he didn't have the greatest transfer luck, towards the end, and money has a lot to do with that. But obviously Jurgen Klopp, even before Liverpool, just the energy, and I do feel like I'm a high energy guy. And I think I love it. I think it's awesome. His embrace, his relationship with his guys. The older we get, it's harder to have that. And that's what I fear the most. Like the guy, guys make fun of me all the time, like dad joke after dad joke, where actually I understand, because if I think about it 5 minutes, I'm like, maybe that wasn't as funny as I thought it was going to be, but that's me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it used to be funny when I was younger, but as I get older, there is a gap, but the way he fights for the guys, you know what I mean? He would do anything for them. Like, I'm hard on my guys. In the end, I hope the one thing they know is that I do care about them and I do anything for them. And I think you can see that in some of those relationships, and in the professional game, it's even harder.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of the 3, 4. You know what I mean? Like I'm the only Liverpool guy in my team, right?
Really?
Dane Brenner, my assistant, he's a Liverpool fan. And he is, and but I'm on an island alone with the players. Right, back in the day, Ian Harkes was a Liverpool fan. His dad, John's a Liverpool fan. I had someone to talk to about it. Alec Farrell was a Liverpool fan. Nothing. Right? So I actually have to start recruiting a little bit better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The team. And even kids would come in. I'm like, who you support? And they said, I'm like, Dane, he's good, but I don't know if he's that good. So, but no, the reason I bring it up is because there is so much you can learn from Liverpool, from even 2 years ago, of them losing, in the final, and then getting back. And we talk about us, right? Like, to get back is hard.
Yeah.
Right? The expectations are so much higher. Everybody's gunning for you. Just the mentality. And we talk about, like, tuning out on restarts, where, Liverpool has had a problem with defending restarts, right? Where you can be a prolific attacking team and lose to anybody.
Yeah.
And I try to use some of the analogies with Liverpool, or Jurgen's staff talking about, our identity is intensity, and it's what we don't do when we don't have the ball for 30% of the time, and trying to send it to him, and like, take it as not from a Liverpool. If I was a Man U fan sending it out, the relevance would be so much better, right? But so it's hard sometimes, because we're just winning all the time, right? Everybody starts to hate you. So using some of that, I love it. I think we can use it more if the guys are more open to Liverpool, you know what I mean, analogy. So it makes it difficult.
Yeah.
Oh, well, speaking of managers in the Premier League, a North London manager was sacked, but unfortunately it was not Unai Emery.
Yeah.
Somehow it was Pochettino. First off, that was shocking. Do you think Mourinho... First off, that doesn't make any sense to me that he's at Spurs. And second of all, when's Emery going to get sacked?
Probably now, because there's a manager available, right? It would be a nice switch. And you see some stuff on social media. They have Poch in there with the Arsenal uniform or the top. I mean,
love it.
Let's be fair. I mean, it is it's a business, right? And if you in that business, and I don't want to be a part of it. I know it's extremely difficult, but if you lose a team, no matter how good you are, it's hard to get them back. And I don't think the fans want to wait, to get that back. And the Spurs have not been good. Now what does this do? I mean, I don't know. Can you wait to the end of the year and just be bad the rest of the year, and then, but obviously the January transfer window is coming open. You know what I mean? And if there's someone that can make a splash, or at least think he can make a splash, he exudes is the most confidence in the world.
Yeah.
I think he totally lost the plot at Man U. He was just lost.
Yes.
I mean, he went from being a human being to being out of his mind.
Yes.
But maybe that's what Spurs need right now, is someone that thinks a little bit bigger than maybe the players do. And I saw a quote. I was flying back from Maryland this morning, and he says, if you listen to me, you will be winners. You know what I mean? And it's like, fair enough. All right. So that's we'll see if they listen to him against Chelsea this weekend.
It definitely seems like a change in like philosophy with Spurs, because they've always been like, well, we may not win trophies, but we're a super attacking, entertaining team, and now they're just like, screw that. We're gonna just win a trophy. We don't care how our football looks. We're gonna go with Mourinho.
I don't know when they're going to win a trophy, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
going to be, they have to wait over a year and a half, I would assume, to win something, just because the next season.
Yeah,
in the
their
end.
only chances left are the
Champions League.
FA Cup and Champions League. And Champions League isn't looking that likely.
It didn't look likely last season.
Yeah, but
That's true.
if you look at it though, we look at it. I'm selfish in this. Is like, we want to be an attacking team, right? And then the hardest thing to do in football is to score goals. So if you play against a super organized team, and maybe the fans don't like it at first, but I'll tell you what, the fans will like it if they're winning.
Yeah.
Period. If they can walk away, and the pride that these fans, which we don't see as much here, have in winning. All week their mood. It does not matter if Tottenham played garbage and won 1-0, right?
Yeah.
If they beat Chelsea, like, they're gonna, all week there's gonna be this optimism, you know what I mean, there.
Yeah.
Of like someone that just, you know what I mean, that has to spend a ton of money, you know what I mean, that they don't have to go to these games. There is a piece of the sanity, you know what I mean. It doesn't matter if he parks a bus or not. So winning is all. There's been plenty of national championships in college soccer where we're not really worried about scoring goals. We don't want to concede. And if you look at Virginia not conceding goals, I'm trying to put it into mine. It's not the most prolific attacking goal-scoring team. They don't score a lot of goals, but they don't let up goals. They have an opportunity to win any game in the country, against anybody. And I think Mourinho brings that buy-in and that belief, and people will be changing their tune about what they want real quick when they're winning.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely got used to being super happy about 1-0 wins during the Mourinho and the Van Gaal era with Man United. But, I mean, it's true. It definitely, like, if you get the win, doesn't really matter how. If it's 1-0 with a 90th minute
It's a
goal,
business, right? It's a business.
You're
And
happy.
now that we're in the postseason. I mean, we can play like garbage and win. We're going to feel really good because we get to train. And it's a little bit different with us, right? Because, like I said, I have today and we have tomorrow for training. It's a scary, scary thought to think that may be the last time I train this group of young men ever again.
Yeah.
That's different. That's a result-oriented. We can play. I mean, Akron, I thought we played really well. We let up one chance. Notre Dame this year, I thought we played really well. We let up one chance. I mean, if we tie that game, we win an ACC championship. At the end of the season, at least we had the trophy. Now the only trophy we have to win 5 games.
Yeah.
It's a scary thought when you think about it. But winning changes everything. 100%.
Oh, it certainly does. And, well, as an Arsenal fan, I'm not really completely used to it at the moment, but hopefully that'll change soon. So you do have Maryland coming up. Do you think there's any bearing on that team from, obviously they won the championship last season, so do you think there's going to be sort of an extra confidence they have coming into that one, because you also have the advantage of being at Spry?
Yeah, Maryland has played in front of some of the biggest crowds in the country. Their place is a pretty intimidating place to go. So obviously it's for them, not against them. I would think that Maryland travels pretty well. How about they have a student section that sings the entire game? We were there yesterday. There was probably 150 of them in the entire game. You know what I mean, behind the bench. So they're involved in these big games. Obviously, you don't win 4 national championships and not be involved in big games. This is just another game for Maryland. We're involved in big games. This is just not just another game is a hard way of saying it. But no, I think they're a good team. What they have is they have a pedigree of winning, right? And they're a result-oriented based team. They don't need to. We play different brands. That's not most teams we play a different brand then. But it's they're a result-oriented group that will pose a lot of challenges for us.
All right. Well, as we're getting closer to the end, we'll just get a few final thoughts. What is your top 4 in the Premier League, if your crystal ball were to be fixed?
Like finish?
Yeah, the finish.
Oh my goodness, that's a tough one. I'd say obviously. I mean, and not even going emotionally, just going intelligently, right?
Yeah.
So just because of the gap,
That's
Liverpool.
got him on the move.
Yeah, no, Liverpool, City are going to catch the yellow ragamuffins. I'm not saying Sheffield. How do you do that? I know
Actually,
they're up
Leicester.
there.
Leicester,
Oh yeah,
Leicester
you think
three.
Leicester have a chance in the top 4?
I would say Leicester 4,
Oh,
and then one of the big guys, right? So
As of right now, I would think Chelsea probably, because I mean,
Yeah, Chelsea's looking good.
they're
as
actually
long as the American can keep them going, right? I mean,
right,
so let's
yeah.
put Chelsea there just for Christian,
Yeah.
right? When we
Yeah,
just
yeah,
do
yeah.
that for him, but hey, I wouldn't count out anybody really, you
Yeah.
know, just because the gap is, in
It's
the middle there.
so
It's
close.
yeah, and then it's going to be interesting to see how it all folds out. But it's a long season. That's what you don't realize. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you can draw on the road and feel really good about yourself, and then people will be saying, "Oh, you just threw away the championship." You know, like it's
There's 20 games left.
it's ridiculous. It's really like, well, how do you deal with the pressure? We deal with the pressure when there's 2 games left and we have, a 5-point lead. That's pressure.
Oh yeah.
We have a lot of time. A lot of time.
Because you mentioned that you get to travel and maybe see some of the academy teams or like Liverpool's youth team, and I saw you also went to OGC Nice and got to talk to Patrick Vieira. So what was that like? Like, did he have any cool things to tell you, or like did you reminisce about his career? Like what?
No, obviously it was small talk in some ways, but it's a humbling thing just to be able to stand next to him. Now I've met Patrick before, just with when he signed Jack down in Florida. So and then being part of that, and actually we did a tour of their facility, and he was up there, and I got to say hello, and I brought that up, and then we were out at training. I mean, he left training and was walking over and just talking. Listen, like, he was talking about his favorite places in America. He has to go back next week. And it was just like small, but it was more of just how open he was.
Yeah.
Now, if you go to some places, I mean, like, put your phone away. It was interesting. I was at Nice's training. Patrick Vieira is 20 yards away from me, and it was the week that John Curry got the job here. And he's calling me, and I'm like, do I pick it up? Because normally you can't use it. I'm like, hello? Yeah, I'm just watching Nice train. And they were fine with it. Like, normally you pick up your phone, like, people come and, like, if you're at Liverpool and you're watching the 18s train, you pull out your phone. Security's flying from different directions.
Jeez.
So, but that was a unique thing. But he came over there. We were talking on the way out, and just a humble human being, right? And just being welcoming, to that. Some people are very closed, but just being welcome there. I mean, it was I got an opportunity to sit in. It was unique for me when we were there. I went to Marseille the day before that, and I sat in their youth meeting. So it was their even younger than, it was like 13s, 15s, 17s, 19s. All of them. So their physio spoke, their academic person spoke, because they do have school there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and it was all in French, right? I can't speak English, right? So I'm sitting in the corner. I'm like, I don't mind saying, like, yo, you sit in with us, right? And I had a translator. Okay, so you sit in with us, and and he's like, and they're talking like, and then everybody's looking at him like, that's super annoying. I'm like, oh, no, it's fine, because I felt like I was like ruining the meeting. If this was happening at my staff meeting, I would lose my mind. But it was interesting to see that what we're talking about, the similarities in these youth academies. They're dealing with the same issues I deal with. Oh, this kid is this, and this kid is this, or this kid's missed this. And I have good kids, and they have good kids. But like, and then but it was interesting. You see the reason why they get moved from one team to another. The coach wants to bring in some younger guys. He doesn't want to, because they're in a good form right now and doesn't want to ruin it. And although it was in French, I understood what was going on.
Right.
And actually encouraged me to do a better job at the beginning of the week. And every Monday we have strength and conditioning, academics, athletic trainer, my entire staff, and just really overviewing the week. If it's academics, hard load, light load, who has it, who's doing well, who needs some extra work, physically, what are we looking at in the return to play with some of these guys, extra work that we could do from a strength and conditioning perspective, if it's massage, so that some of those opportunities have been really, really helpful, really helpful.
That's awesome.
And then, if I'm not mistaken, you also got the chance to see Jack at Leeds.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. It's he takes the longest showers, we learned. Spends more time doing his hair than everybody else, because literally we were the last person there waiting for a player to come out. And literally, I looked at, I went with Peyton Smith, the owner of Mission Pizza here in Winston, and Peyton's a Wake Forest soccer alum, and we went over for the Liverpool Man U game.
Oh,
Right, that was the
sick.
purpose of the trip, but it was worth it because Jack played the day before, so it was great. We got in that morning, and literally we're like about to fall asleep, right? So we're staying in Leeds, and I'm waiting. I'm like, Peyton, maybe he's not coming. Maybe he just totally forgot about us, right? And literally the last guy out, and it was great to see him because I haven't seen him since, he was probably not here, but MLS.
Yeah.
Seeing him in an MLS game. So that was a great opportunity just to see him in that and just to see his progress, you know what I mean, just grinding through professional football.
Yeah.
Right, and now he's a mainstay for him. I know Bielsa's loving him, and they're willing to just talk that Bielsa's going to sell one of their young, studs because they have players like Jack right now, and so but that was a great experience. You know what I mean? And but that was a good weekend. It started good, and then and then the draw didn't help anybody. yeah. But it is what it is. I've gone over the last 2 years to see Liverpool at United, and 1 point at the 2 games. So needless to say, well, we played already. I'm not going again, so I'll go see them play someone else. I saw them play Arsenal 3-0. That was a good one.
Yep.
And then 3 days later, I saw Arsenal play Bayern, and it was 6.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That was It's been a great couple
That
of
was
years.
Champions League. That was fun. Yeah.
Because just in the MLS, which player, I guess foreign player, do you think has had the largest influence on the MLS? Like Ibrahimovic, Wayne Rooney, or David Villa?
Carlos Vela.
Oh, Carlos Villa.
David Beckham?
Oh,
David Beckham as well, I guess.
No. I think for a on the league itself, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't think what they do, like Ibra brings in like this persona, and people want to see him to see what he's going to say or do.
Yeah.
Right? In terms of substance for a team, I don't think. Well, you can say Vela, but Carlos has done that. But Wayne Rooney, in terms of what he did for that club, they were in dire straits in terms of winning. Right? And it's not one player, but I think the culture and what he did for that club, playoffs, and to move them forward, I said they're probably the best acquisition, you know what I mean, for an MLS side to take the next step.
Yeah.
They're building a stadium, and what he did, because it like rejuvenated DC United.
Right.
Does it make sense? I mean, starting something new and getting big names, and you can look at even people, with Atlanta, and they started with some big ones, and Miami will start with some big ones. But I think DC being one of the original teams that was really not doing well, what he did, I think that was single-handedly the best acquisition so far.
Yeah, I mean, just the amount of effort he puts into it, I mean, can be exemplified in his, like that famous goal.
Yeah. You're gonna watch it.
knows.
But I
He's
will say
tracked
this,
all the
but
way back.
I watched the playoff game, and I'm watching Ibra, right, play against LAFC, and it's like he's special, right? He can do amazing things, but they play down a man defensively.
Oh,
And I hope he doesn't listen to this and call me out on social media.
He does follow us.
He's
Yeah,
got
but-
about 20 followers.
But what I'm saying is that's scary, right? I mean, that's nuts. Yeah. So
Well, it was sort of the same way with Andrea Pirlo at New York City FC, because Harrison also got to play with Pirlo, Lampard, and Villa, so that
you
was
got to
also-
play with some good players, man.
or not play with them in some cases.
Yeah. No, but that in terms of that, you know what I mean, that environment for him. I mean, going in and putting your arm around, like Frankie Lampard putting your arm around.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Right? I mean, like even just as a fan, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. So just more fun stuff for the fans, I guess. So does the team have a go-to like hype-up song, or like any songs that get played throughout the season in the locker room to get the team going?
There's been "Ain't No Mountain High Enough." It's
Okay.
been
Alright.
that's been in the locker room for years and years and
That's
years,
awesome.
and that's something that they play every game, and then the alumni will come back post game when they're in the locker room and do that. It's a special thing. We had a webcam in there for alumni weekend this year against Syracuse, and that was pretty awesome.
That's
It was
good,
Clemson,
yeah.
maybe Clemson or Syracuse. I don't know which one it was.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see. Just super random ones. If you're looking for a joke on the team, who do you go to?
Alistair Johnson.
Really?
Oh yeah, he's like the king of banter. When you want him to be serious, I'm like enough, right? Like, so I would say Ali. We have some, we have some quirky guys. You know what I mean? Where they may be funny, like the same way I think I'm funny and I'm not. I think some of them think they're funny, and I'm not going to name names on that one. I would say probably the best banter would be Ali. Joke-wise, I don't know. I think that's probably our way of banter, just busting each other's chops all the time.
Yeah.
Yes, he's up there for sure. Joey Dezar probably takes most of it, And I think at the end of the season, Joey will probably. I hope he just goes crazy on a couple of the guys that do it to him. Right? He's got a couple, hopefully 5 games left before he loses his mind. So.
All right. Well, again, another big thanks for Coach Bob Muuss joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. We've learned a lot. And of course, best of luck on Sunday. We'll be out there watching the stands.
Yes.
Again, next show is Next School Wins in the Twitter, Gray.
He's at nextschoolwins_WF.
And as usual, it's Christopher McGeera.
Brennan Saul.
Gray Hyatt.
All right, Bobby Muuss, thank you so much, guys.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
All right.